Hi, Jack. Thanks for taking the time to talk today. Do you want to describe who you are, where you live, and what connects you to water?
You bet. Hi, I'm Jack Southworth, and my wife Teresa and I operate a ranch in Bear Valley, which is 45 miles north of Burns. And we're dependent on winter runoff to provide irrigation water for our hay fields, and we're dependent on the precipitation we receive to grow grass for our cattle. So we're tied to the water situation in Harney Valley, but also I facilitate the Harney Basin community-based water planning effort. And as a facilitator, I want to see solutions that work for everyone in the community, whether you're a domestic well user, an irrigator, or a person that's interested in wildlife in the Harney Basin.
Yeah, sounds good. And what's your interest in water planning writ large?
I think that the West has a history of not managing its natural resources well at the beginning. And groundwater, we're very much at the beginning. This is a late 20th, early 21st century problem where we're seeing the depletion of groundwater resources. So I want to see this community, which I'm a part of. I'm part of the watershed and I'm part of the local community. I want us to see it succeed long-term managing this natural resource.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, as you mentioned, we do have a community-based water planning collaborative right there in the Harney Basin. What is the big picture process, just quickly, for the collaborative itself?
The Water Resources Department has set up a 5-step plan. The first thing is to build a collaborative, and we've done that. We've drawn together a diverse group of people to be in the collaborative. The second thing is to describe the water resources, the water quality, and the ecological issues in the basin, and we've done that. The third thing is to quantify existing and future needs and demands, not only for groundwater, but for surface water as well as groundwater dependent ecosystems. And we're towards the end of that process. The fourth thing is to develop integrated solutions for meeting long-term water needs. And we've developed 40 to 50 strategies, and we're in the process of ranking and prioritizing those strategies. And the last thing is to adopt the plan, to get community support for this plan and make it implementable enough and legal enough that the Water Resources Department will say, hey, yeah, this is a good idea. This has community support, it's legal, and it works for the community in the long term.
Great. That's how the collaborative functions. But who's in the collaborative? How many people and what kind of demographics are in the collaborative?
So at any particular meeting, we'll have 30 to 40 participants. And it's a diverse group. We have irrigators, we have domestic well users, we have residents from the Burns-Hines community, we have members of the Burns-Paiute tribe, we have agency people, Fish and Wildlife, NRCS, Forest Service at times. We have non-governmental organizations, environmental organizations like the Nature Conservancy, Portland Audubon, Ducks Unlimited. We have a diverse group who've been a part of this group for the long haul.
Great. Well, to ask a leading question, is there anybody who isn't part of the collaborative who should be? Are we missing any key stakeholders?
Yeah, what we'd like to see are a few more of the large irrigators. And frankly, we haven't made a compelling case to attract them to the table yet. What they see as irrigators, and particularly those with senior water rights, is why should I be at the table? I have a permit to extract water from a well for as long as I want to. And why should I go to a collaborative and risk losing that right? And so we need to make a compelling case to them to come to the table.
And are we making that case? And if so, how?
We're getting there. The strategies I mentioned are both small and large strategies. And a small one might be use a less water-dependent crop than produce a less water-dependent crop than alfalfa, or meter your well. But a larger strategy would be the creation of a Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, or CREP, where users give up irrigation on an area of land for a 15 or 20-year period and are paid to do so. And that allows other people to continue pumping on their land, but it's a net reduction in water used. Another thing is to create a marketplace for water users so that I could buy, or not I, but a user could buy a water right from one area of land and use it on theirs, with the overall goal being a net reduction in water used. And so those are things that I think could bring water users to the table, because they'll see an economic benefit from participating. If they're in an area where well levels are dropping, or they're in a farm operation that isn't as economically viable as others, they might say that they're better off selling their water right, or the right to produce a crop in their land, and let someone else do it that's more efficient.
Yep, that makes sense. Well, you're the facilitator of the Harney Basin Collaborative. What do you like to see in terms of the collaborative functioning and interacting with each other?
I think one of the most important things is that we treat everyone fairly and kindly. And by that, I mean that every person in the room has a voice. Sometimes at a meeting, you'll see a person from a government agency say, no, I'm just there to listen. And in our collaborative, no, you're part of the circle, you're going to participate. And so even people from a news organization that write an article, they're going to be called upon for their comments. They can decline if they want to, but everyone in the room participates. And secondly, we use the circle to make sure that every voice is heard. You don't raise your hand, you don't jostle to get your voice in the room. You know that you can wait and you will be heard. And by doing so, we can learn to listen to other points of view. And that way, when we listen and seek to understand, we come up with solutions as a collaborative that are different than what people originally came into the room with. We will create win-win solutions rather than win-lose. And we'll create solutions that are better than what either side had come up with in the beginning.
Totally agree. Well, what kind of lessons learned would you like to share with the group?
The Harney Basin is no different than any other place in the West. We've learned that as vast and large and expansive and productive as the Harney Basin is, the groundwater beneath it is still a finite natural resource. And we need to learn to manage that resource, just like we've learned to manage grass, like we've learned to manage timber, to make that resource not only sustainable, but regenerative on a long term. And so that we can continue to have a healthy community, a healthy ecosystem, and a healthy economy in the Harney Basin. And I'm pretty optimistic about what's occurring. I think we're beginning to hit our stride as a collaborative. I think that we're beginning to see that in the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to have some meaningful things occur that will help domestic well users so that they have a reliable source of healthy, clean water. Secondly, I think it's going to take a little time, but a lot of irrigators are going to come to the table, not because they're altruistic, but because they see an economic benefit from being part of this collaborative effort. Thirdly, I think you'll see a dramatic reduction in groundwater use in the Harney Basin in the next 5 to 15 years. I think we'll see water use drop by 25 to 50%, getting it in line with the annual recharge of the basin. After that, I imagine this stretched Z will be slow to start with, we'll have that rapid decline, and then we'll have continued declines out to the 30-year mark, and we'll be very much in line with the annual recharge. I think we'll end up with different plans in different parts of the Harney Basin, depending upon the groundwater dependent ecosystem problems that we see there, the domestic well user problems we see there, or how quickly irrigators' wells are dropping. I think that the different parts of the basin will have different solutions. And as a result, we're going to have a plan that is not one and done, but continues to reevaluate itself over time and become a better and more effective plan. And I think the thing I want to leave with people is that this is a test case set up by the Oregon Water Resource Department. This is an experiment. we're feeling our way, but we're optimistic. And we're going to find a way that the community of the Harney Basin is still a great place to live. We're going to find that there's still a viable ranching and farming community in the Harney Basin. And we're going to find that our groundwater dependent ecosystems are going to remain diverse and healthy for the long term.
Fantastic. Well, that's all the time we have for now, Jack. But for folks who are listening, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. Please come to our live Q&A session, which will be shortly after this. We hope to see you there. Take care.